Hi, this is the second video of 5 videos in the web app development course looking at MySQL. Previous video we set up a phpMyAdmin contact list. So here's the table we set up. We set it up, if you look at the structure, with an ID, a name, and then various contact details. And we can browse it and see the contents of it. Okay, so that was set up in the last video. In this video, we're going to look at listing the entries in 3 different ways. In the next video, we'll look at showing the results of a person, then inserting a new person and editing a person. In the book, we're looking at chapters 8, 9, and 10. So, we're going to start this video by building a template MySQL PHP. There's lots of stuff you have to do in MySQL, in PHP to link to the MySQL database. And it's just worth having a template that wraps all this up. So we're going to connect, we're going to issue the query, handle its result, and then disconnect from the database. That's the standard process you go through whenever you're doing a query. Okay. Some complex pages do multiple queries, and there you do connect, issue query, handle results, repeat that, and then disconnect. But we'll keep it simple in our template. We're then going to use PHP to list the entries in the table in 3 different ways. Firstly as paragraphs, then as a table, and then as a menu option, leading into the next video where we'll be looking at the details of people. Okay, we're going to use phpMyAdmin to create it. That's going to also create the PHP for us, and we'll edit that as we go. Okay, so over to IntelliJ. Started a new project here, so I'm just going to create a new HTML file. No, I'm not. I'm going to create a new PHP file. I'm going to call it template. Okay, so we get the boilerplate there. I also need to, should probably set up a standard PHP template that includes this, but I'm just going to copy that from an HTML file and delete the HTML file to get some boilerplate HTML and take out the PHP tag at the beginning of the PHP. Oops. Hello. Oh yeah. Can't do that because comments are different in HTML, so we'll leave that tag in there purely so that the comments work. Okay. And I will take out, yep, that's all fine. Okay, so we've got our HTML there, and just in here I'm going to put a little bit of PHP saying hello, echo, hello there, folks. And it's already in a paragraph, so that's fine. Oh, except my PHP starter tag wasn't right. And it's how do you end a PHP tag? And it's just that, yeah. You have a look in the browser at that. So this page, so it's 3124 and then template.php. I was waiting. Hello there, folks. Excellent. View the page source, and we see that, once again, we don't see the PHP, we see the output of the PHP, which fits in with the HTML. That's cool, so that's working. Right, so let's do something a bit more interesting. We're going to take out these paragraph markers, because we don't really want to do a paragraph, but inside the div, if I can persuade this to not, that's me persuaded it to be at the start of a line, I'm just going to have a big block of PHP. Okay. So the stages are, we have to connect, issue the query, handle the results, and disconnect. So Okay, the command we have to issue when we're issuing starting PHP is we have to create a con object, a connection object. And that's given to us by the new MySQL call. Okay, so it's a new MySQL. There's an old way of doing SQLs which were not interactive. It was not object-based. The object-based ones all end in I, and that's what we will use here. So we've got to give this a whole bunch of parameters. It's got to have a string, lots of strings, a host, a user, a password, a database name, port, and socket. Okay, you can look up the manual for PHP for MySQL, and it gives you lots of details about the connections. Okay, this is the MySQL object, and we've got a constructor for it. Okay, so it tells you more details, lots of details about it. Okay, but IntelliJ is really good at helping us fill it in. So the first thing we've got to give it is the host name. Now that's going to be devweb.strath. In fact, what's probably easier to do is to create some variables here. So I'm going to do that as $host. Okay, and then we need $user, $password, and finally the only thing we need to add is the database name, the $db name. Okay, and I've set these up as variables, so $host is equal to, so it's devweb 3000. You don't put the HTTPS in because it's just the host name. .cis.strath.ac.uk. The username is your username. So mine is that. The password is your MySQL password. Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. And the database is whatever that is your username as well. That's linking to this thing up here on phpMyAdmin. So that's also AES 02112 for me. Okay, and your username for you. Password, I obviously don't want to show you my password. So what I've got is I've got a file which is in a locked location, so it's unreadable, and I'm going to include it. Okay, so I'm going to include frame. Oops, just copy that path. Why did it bleep? Copy the path. Okay. There's three ways of including files or two variations of 2 ways, 4 ways of including a file in PHP. This is the simplest and probably the worst. Include just includes the file path, so and it textually includes it wherever it is. So it's going to take the contents of pass.php and include it here as part of this PHP. Okay. Problem is, if we do a few includes and those includes include other files and there's a common file, you end up with multiple copies of that, which may include multiple definitions of the same function name, which can cause trouble. So you can include once, and that says you only include it once. If it's already included, don't do it again. But if it fails to include it, it will just carry on with an empty. So I actually use require once, which requires the file to be included. If it's not there, you get an error message. Okay. Inside that file, I've declared a function called get. It's EES. Oh, I can't remember to go note of it. 3000. Okay, this is just my way of not showing you my password. Okay, that gets it from a function, sticks it in the pass variable, then we connect to the database there. Okay, so that's us. We should have our connection now. We can check that with a little bit of PHP. So if $con, and then remembering that that arrow is the same as Java's dot, so if the method of this or the value of this, so it's the connect error of that. So we can do that just like that in PHP. So connect error will tell us what the error is. Okay, but if it's empty, then that's a false value. So that condition is false. Okay, so if the connect element of the con object is empty, this will be false, so it will skip this route. Otherwise, it will run this wee bit of PHP. And in here, I'm going to call another function called die, which is a horrible name, and say connection failed. Okay. And you can be a wee bit more specific, and you can output using dot for concatenation. We can output this so that we can see what the error is. Okay. That's actually very bad practice. So I'm going to stick a fix me in here. Remove once working. Okay. Why is that bad practice? That's bad practice because that connection error often gives details about the server and gives detail about the username, the database name. It won't give your password, but it gives other details about the server. If it's an error from a lookup, it will give details about your table. And all these wee details can be used by hackers to try and break into the database. So it's a bad idea to put out details of the database. And you can leak them so easily through the connect error. So we should remove the details once we've got it working, but for now it's handy for debugging. Okay, at the bottom, the last thing we have to do is $con disconnect. Oh, no, close. Okay, and that closes our connection to the database. You can actually sometimes get away without doing that, but it's a good policy to do it. So if we now go back to our web page, refresh that, it no longer says hello folks. If we view the page source, there's nothing there. Okay. If I change my username, if I change my table to that, which doesn't exist, and we refresh the page, we get the warning from MySQL. So it's saying access denied for user that to database that. The connection failed because it doesn't exist. Okay, basically. So we are running the PHP, which is cool. Now we have to issue the query. I'm just going to do a very simple select here. So I'm going to do $SQL is equal to select. Actually, let's try and use PHP for this. What does it do to show us the browse? So it does this, select star from WAD phone book, and it limits it to the first 30 entries. We won't bother doing that. You can actually get it to create the PHP code for you. So I'll take this and I'll copy that, paste it in there. So there we go. The SQL variable is, which is a string, is being set to this string. Okay. I'm going to take out the limit because I'm happy to have everything back. Oops. Be very careful with the quotes. So that's our SQL. Okay, once we've got our SQL, we then get the result of issuing it to the server by using our connection object and doing a query, passing it the SQL string. And it really is that simple. So that's us now issuing the query to the server. Again, we can do some error checking. So if not result, so if the result is empty or false or invalid, then we can die. And again, that function, I think I explained its purpose actually earlier. All it does is it kills the script. It tells PHP, spit out this string and then stop running. Okay, so nothing in the rest of the page will work. It's a bit brutal. That's why it's called die. It's usually a good idea to do something more user-friendly. If you've got an error from the database, tell them that you're doing something has gone wrong. You can even email a support line and tell the user that you're aware of the problem. And again, we can report the error if we want to. But again, once it's working, we should get rid of that line because we'll be leaking. That's where you can really leak data about the database, because you can tell about tables that are missing and stuff. Otherwise, if we get beyond that die, we can echo. So let's just echo a paragraph, remembering that we're doing HTML output from PHP. We can do result, and then the number of rows. Number of rows dot bump rows found. Bump, 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 bump. I think that's us. Oh, this is us actually handling the result. Browser. Bum, 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 refresh. 2 rows found. And we've got 2 rows here, so that's looking good. If I insert another value into the table, so I'm just going to add a Josh Black, email Josh at somewhere. Okay, phone number, bum, 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 bum. And we'll just leave him as socially not connected. Browse, we now have 3 people. Go back to our script, refresh, 3 rows found. Cool. So that's our template. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that in the template file. I'm now going to create a new PHP file called index. Just going to grab that and paste it in here. Okay. So now in the browser, I can go to the root of that folder and we get the same result. But now we can start selecting stuff from it. Okay, so how do we handle the results in a more intelligent way? Well, the first thing to do is to try and output each of the results. Okay, so if the number of rows is greater than 0, we should do something about it. Okay. And what we can do is we can do a while. So we declare a row variable is equal to the result comes with a function called fetch a sock, which doesn't fetch a foot covering garment, but it finds an associative array. So that gives you back an associative array and assigns it every time you go round this, you get an associative array for each row of the table. So if we're looking at the back here, this is a row of the table. Okay? So we're going to get an associative array back each time we call results fetch a sock. It'll give us back the next associative array. So the first time we'll get an associative array where ID is equal to 1, name is equal to marked unlocked, email is marked unlocked, and so on. Okay, it's really neat way of handling database results. So what we can do is we can echo out, and again we're doing HTML, so we'll wrap it all up in a paragraph marker, and I'll just stick out the $row, and initially I'm just going to put out the, what did I call it? I called it name. Got to match these words identically. The name element of that associative array in a paragraph. Yep. Oops. Where's this? Refresh. Okay, so 3 rows found and they are Martin Locke, Mary Smith and Josh Black. Cool. Obviously you can output lots of other stuff about them. You just have to copy this. Yeah. And probably put a space in between them. Okay, so we could put out the ID, and then if I copy that, then we can do the other things. So we can do email. We can do phone. We can do Twitter. And I guess for balance we should also do Facebook and Save that. Back to the browser. Refresh that, and we get these full rows of details about each person output. Cool. Okay, look at the source. Okay, the source is a bit ugly because we've got one massive long line here for line 11 where everything's been joined up. That's because we're not, well, you've got to kind of remember that what PHP's job is to output the source of the HTML document. We're not putting any carriage returns in that. We're putting our paragraph markers in, so the browser is properly showing them as paragraphs, but we're not putting any carriage returns in. So in the source, it's all joined up. You can just do that by sticking a \n at the end of the paragraph. Save that. Refresh the page. View the page source again. Now it's just a wee bit easier to read. Cool. Makes it easier to debug if you do that. So, back to our slides. We've now done it. We've listed the entries in the table in our first way, which is a paragraph. So let's try a table. PHP tables. If you can look up W3 schools or table. And there's lots of details here on how you can set up a table. Okay, the basic principles are you have a table tag, start and end. Any date rows are tagged TR, table row, and then table data cells are TDs. Okay. So before we start our while loop, probably inside the if, we can do a table tag, and we probably want to take a carriage return. Afterwards, we can do an end table tag. Okay. And inside, every row has to be in a TR tag. Okay. And that has to start and end. I'm actually getting a very big line of PHP here, so I'll probably break it up. Okay. Instead of the paragraphs, we want to do TDs for each element. So I'm just going to break that here, and then do echo, and then we're going to have a TD. I'm going to strip it down just now to the name. I'm just going to copy this and stick it up here so I can refer to it as I'm editing. So we've got the TR tag, which starts the row. I better add an end TR tag. And I'll put a carriage return after it. Okay, for the TD, I'm going to table data. We're going to do the name initially. Okay, and it seems to already, IntelliJ seems to be ahead of me here, and it's already changed it to end TD. So we've got TR starts the row. TD starts the data cell element. Then we end that and we end the row. Save that. Look back at our page. Okay, we've now just got the names out. If we view the page source, we can see it's a table. Table rows, multiple table rows with table cells in it. Cool. We can then add the extra elements by just repeating this and changing the associative array indexes. One shy again. Don't want to be adding Facebook for some reason. And go back along here. Facebook. Okay, if I save that, refresh the page, we now have it as a table. Okay, you'd have to use CSS styling, or you can even use old-fashioned table styling to give lines around the table. By default, Chrome doesn't do that, it's just got white cell borders. But you can see that the tables are in columns now. So we've got everything nicely in columns. You could also add a header row. So there's TH, which we can have a table row at the top, and instead of using table data, you use table header cells and output that just as fixed HTML before you start your table, and that would give you a nice header row. Okay, so this is done as a table. Last, let's change that into a select menu. Okay. So W3 schools, W3 schools, select. Okay. It's a select option, start and end, and each thing in between is option value, what you see in the menu, and then end option. I'm going to copy that one, go back here, just going to paste that in there for reference. It's a select instead of a table. Okay. We don't need the rows. All we need is option is this, but we have to wrap that up in PHP. So it's going to be echo that, and then carriage return. And because we've copied this, we've got quotes in it. You have to be careful with your quotes. So we actually want those quotes to go through to the browser, so we just stick a backslash in front of them, and that will send that string to the browser. Okay. Excuse my dog is a bit frantic today. Okay, so we've got our select tag, end tag. We've got the option, start and end, and the value that's sent to the server is here. Okay. Let's just check that out, what it looks like. So we now have this little menu. So it's a bit bonkers because for each row in the database, or each row in the table, we've just output Volvo. Let's see if we can do better than that. Well, of course we can do better than that. We can, for a start, I want the value to be the value of the row, okay? So that, of the ID. So I'm going to end the PHP string, concatenate in the value of the ID element of the row, the ID element of the row array, okay? And then for the name, I want to output the person's name. So again, I want to stop the string, output their name, then start the string again. Okay, so what we end up outputting is option value equals, say, 1 for the first row. End this option tag, then add the name of the first row marked in log, then end the option tag. Okay, this starts looking very, very complicated, so that's why you kind of have to build it up with copies and pastes. Okay, save that, go back over here, refresh it. Now we've got 3 rows in the table. We have a menu populated from the database. Okay, so that's really cool. That's a user interface element that we've created dynamically based on the contents of a database. And that's the basis of so much of web interface design, web interaction. So we've now created our list in the table in 3 ways. We've done a paragraph, we've done a table, we've done select options menu. We used phpMyAdmin to create the table in the first place, and then we copied the selects out of it. Okay. You can do other things over there. So if you want things sorted, you can add them. So instead of just browse, you can browse and you can say sort by the primary key or by a secondary key, and it gives you the SQL here to create the PHP code. It gives you that to copy across. Okay, so you can do sorting and stuff on the server without having to do it in PHP. But that's about us for now. Next time, we're going to take what we've done here, and whenever we pick a person from the menu, we'll show some details about them.